Hi friends and companions on this path of spiritual practice. Beauty is the discovery that objects are not objects. And love is the discovery that others are not others. That's a beautiful teaching by one of the teachers that I know, whose practice in this quality of being present opened his heart to discover anew what is beauty and what is love. A quality of presence that broke open his heart. As our spiritual practice takes hold, I think we begin to learn, we begin to experience that there's a quality of presence that is not about behavior with a switch that we can turn on or turn off. There's a quality of presence that is not just a performance of paying close attention to something when we want to and then doing away with it when we don't care to. There's a quality of presence that is an expression of our being itself, or else it is simply posturing or pretending. Decades ago, the Tibetan master Trungpa Rinpoche coined this phrase, spiritual materialism. It was his shorthand for saying that the self, the ego, that wants to self-achieve and accomplish something else to defend itself, this ego has a way of co-opting spiritual practice itself. I'm thinking about that because many of us, I have been noticing that presencing has crept into the literature on leadership studies. And it makes sense that when Siddhartha Gautama Buddha held up a flower, that what commanded the monk's attention was not some words or a sermon or argumentation, but it was nothing other than the quality of Siddhartha Buddha's presence. The literature on leadership studies is saying that if leadership is really about influence, right, influencing other people, then presence is about how we influence. Because when we practice a certain quality of presence, there's an immediacy, there's a vibrancy, there's a vitality and a potency in that presencing that lends authority to our being. That's influence according to leadership studies. So it makes perfect sense to my understanding that leadership studies would say it's not just about skills, it's not just about personality traits. It's about presencing that is deployed to influence other people, to make change, to be social activists in the world. It makes good sense. But there are ways in which leadership understands presencing in the way that Trungpa Rinpoche warned us about. That we use presencing to influence others in a way that a guru, in the way that a charismatic personality confines people to our way of looking at the world, to a single narrative or an ideology. When I think about true presencing, it does influence others and the world. But true presencing is not influence in service of my ego, my desires and wants. True presencing involves a confidence to enter vulnerably into the relationship, where my own ego, my own wants and desires I am influenced by something that transcends my ego. That there is an integrity and a truth in this relationship that any true presencing summons forth. So as we practice presencing, being here now with everything that it is, we become especially attentive to the ways that our ego wants to manipulate this presencing, to once again, to fortify, to defend, to advance the ego and the self, versus surrendering into the vulnerability of the relationship itself, and that the influence that occurs is the mutuality of all things. And so, my friends, we continue with our spiritual practice as we step into the vulnerability of true presence.